Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. It's 7:50 this morning. We've been nursing for about 10 minutes. Hopefully we'll get up here soon.
Okay, so some of the newborn stuff has stopped fitting. So I'm going through 3-month clothes and a bunch of the 2-year clothes are not fitting, or 24 months, so he'll be going into 2-year clothes, Gabriel will. So I'm going through 2-year clothes as well, and then I'm going to wash everything. So we're sorting stuff into piles and all that kind of good stuff. Got some 6-month clothes to put away, some girls' clothes to put away, all that good stuff. Okay, so I'm sorting 2T clothes. The bag is here. These are ones I'm going to get rid of. This is stuff I'm keeping. This is 24 months. Okay, now, even though I've got a really big stack of clothes, I'm going to go through the 3-month clothes. So if there's anything I don't want, has holes in it, is ripped, etc., I'm going to go over here. And then everything I do want is going to go in here. If I don't want it, but I want to keep it, but it's too much, it's going to stay in here. So, pretty much all the clothes are sorted through. Now I'm going to go through the rest of the stuff. I got to donate this bag. This is the basket to wash. So now I'm going to go through some like newborn stuff and whatnot. Alrighty, that was reorganizing the boys' room. Closets, it was going through all the clothes, bringing out new sizes, all that good jazz. We're nursing, and now in this video we are doing a long-awaited, promised birth story video. So today I'm going to talk about my birth story. You saw the video, so I'm just going to explain and break it down. Probably put in some pictures. I started going into labor at 4 a.m., which I kind of described in a previous video. Around that same time, I called my midwife. I was having contractions close together, kind of intense enough for me to feel them and be slightly concerned, but I was a little anxious, so I didn't totally trust myself. She told me to try and go back to sleep it off. If I couldn't, give her a call when I couldn't sleep anymore. I did that, and we ended up going into the birth center around 9 a.m. My birth photographer arrived around 10 a.m., but when we arrived at the birth center, they took all my vitals, did a stretch and sweep to check where I was at. I was at like 4 or 5 centimeters. I think 4 centimeters. Did the stretch and sweep, and then she told me, go into the shower, take a shower. Every time you have a contraction, do a low squat. Try and get that baby moved down and get things going. We'll check on you in a little bit. If things aren't really progressing at all, then I'll probably have you go home, see the chiropractor, and we'll, see what we're gonna do about it. I was 38 weeks, And by law, in the state of Minnesota, they cannot do anything to induce you at 38 weeks for a non-medical reason. So they can't really give you anything to help your labor along if you're like kind of in labor, but not really in full labor yet, because that would be an induction, and it's just not safe to push those boundaries if your baby isn't ready, because a lot of times you can have false labors and all that kind of stuff. So she was like, there's nothing we can give you. If your body is ready, it's going to happen. Basically then giving it a push with the stretch and sweep, the shower, all that kind of stuff. Got into the shower, was having more contractions and doing the squats when I got the contractions. It was a little bit more intense. And then I walked around, did some different positions, the yoga ball. As you saw in the video, I kind of like hung from this thing suspended from the ceiling, which was great. When the contractions picked up, after about 4 hours, she came in and checked on me again. There was a student midwife there that had, talked me through some positions and stuff sooner, but my main midwife did come and check on me around 4 hours in. So that would have been like, 1 o'clock, something like that. I had been eating various different things, drinking water, snacking. My husband ate, my cousin ate. Everyone that was there was just kind of chilling, doing their thing. My midwives went and had lunch. In office, but they had lunch, so they took a break. And there was another mom laboring there at the same time. I was just kind of eating and hanging out and doing my thing, laboring. I felt pretty good. Within the next 3 hours, things got a lot more intense. They had me do a side lying release type of position. Your contractions are more uncomfortable, that kind of stuff. They were, but I did actually, make it through all of that just fine. On the whole, my contractions felt pretty fine. Like, I felt pretty good about them. The sounds throughout my video and the faces that I'm making disagree with that statement, but I genuinely didn't have a ton of pain. It was a lot more relaxed and calm, and I felt good in between my contractions, but they weren't really regular. I could feel them a lot more. They were of a lot more wave-like, which helped me to get through them a lot better, but they just weren't regulated consistently. Like, they'd be regular for like a couple hours and then become really irregular. And then every time we timed them, they got really regulated and stuff. And I don't know, it kind of went a little bit back and forth. But by 4 p.m., everything was pretty intense, and I was ready. I was excited to get into the tub. I had been in labor for like 12 hours. And so they ran the tub, got everything ready, got me into the tub. I probably spent like an hour and a half in the tub. They were like, whenever you have to push, whenever you have to push. I just didn't feel the urge to push. They had a really hard time checking me in the water. So I was like, okay. I got out, I went to the bathroom. They then checked me, listened to the baby's heartbeat. Then I got back in for a little bit and my contractions stopped. Basically, they informed me that, everything was really stretched out, good to go, but there was just no pressure on the cervix. The baby had not descended. I was in that stage where my body was ready, but my baby just wasn't engaged at all. So they're like, okay, you need to get out and start doing this, some different positions to get the baby to descend. So we went out. I walked up and down the stairs sideways, taking 2 steps at a time, holding onto the railing, going up and down on both sides, back and forth for as long as I could handle that. I probably got in a solid 10 minutes. I had done that prior to this, but since my contractions stopped, they were like, we need to get things going again to see what happens, because I was like fully dilated, ready to go. My water had not broken, and I was just like, I want this baby out. Not so much that I was in pain or wanted labor to be over. I was tired, yeah, and I did end up taking a nap during that time, but it was less the fact that I was tired and more the fact that I felt like a failure. I was like, I don't know what to do to get him engaged. So anything they were like, try this, I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. But I still, it wasn't really working. I did a couple of inversions to try and get him to descend. more side lying releases. We did them out on the sofa to, encourage that movement, but also because it was lower to the ground than the bed was higher up, so we couldn't do an inversion off the bed. And because the floor was tiled, it's just not safe. So we did it out in the waiting area where they had a little sofa. I did all of this stuff, napped a little bit, labored some more. Things were still really intense, but he wasn't descending. So I think it was 8 o'clock. She came in to check me again, the main midwife, and she was like, you know what? Your cervix is fully dilated. Everything's soft. You can stretch all the way out. Basically, you're fully dilated, but it's not, there's no head there, so there's no actual dilation, if that makes sense. We'll give you another little bit, try some more stuff, see what you can do, get through these contractions. An hour later at 9 o'clock, they came in and they were like, basically the only thing that's happening here, or that isn't happening here, is your baby is not descending. So let's try pushing him down into the birth canal and see what happens. His bladder still had not broken, so there was no danger of anything really except exhaustion. And my midwife was like, your baby probably wasn't totally ready to come today. I was sniffling and blowing my nose the whole day. And she was like, I think that you're kind of getting sick. And your body was like, I cannot be sick and pregnant anymore. I'm done being pregnant. I can't do both. So it's time to have this baby. And that's what put you into labor. So she was like, I think that's what's going on. That's why your baby's not descending. So let's try and push him out, see what happens. And, we'll go from there. So I started pushing, and he actually did start engaging. It was so much work. Holy crap. That was the most effort ever. So I pushed suspended from the ceiling thing probably for 10 minutes. And then she was like, sometimes pushing in a more natural position gives your legs a break, your arms a break, your body a break. Go try pushing on the toilet. He's not anywhere near delivery yet, so it's safe. You're not going to deliver your baby on the toilet. Just go try pushing on the toilet for a little bit. And I was like, okay, but can I get something to prop my feet up? I think I mentioned this in my last video. And they had this really cool thing to put your feet up on. So I sat and pushed like that for probably 5 minutes. It was 2 or 3 contractions. It wasn't a super long time, but it felt like it was pretty good progress. I just felt weird about it. I don't remember exactly how I felt about it, but I felt weird about it. Not oh, this is gross, but just this is not, I don't want to push like this anymore. And I had a reason, but I don't remember what it was. So I was like, let's go back to the hanging. That feels the arm hanging thing. That feels better with the deep squat. So we did that for probably another 10 to 15 minutes. And then I was like, can I just lay on the bed? Try it like that. I laid back on the bed. Did some pushing like that. She was feeling him engage. She was descending into the birth canal. And then I wanted to get up and suspend again. So I did. But I was starting to push a lot harder. Pushed like that for another, probably 5 minutes. Then I went back to the bed. I did a side, laying on your side, kind of pushing a little bit, went back to my back, and then pushed the remainder of the time. In total, I spent 54-ish minutes pushing, because it was 9 to 9:54, until he was actually born. Probably 10 minutes before he was born, they broke my water, and that helped a lot in terms of him descending and everything. I didn't notice a difference pain-wise, other than because he was in the birth canal, there was a lot of pressure, and that was more painful. There was lots of stuff going on. So they did break my water for me. Yeah, he was born. It was once I finally did get his head out, because there's that kind of tug of war with pushing out. There was one more push, and then I delivered the rest of him, and he was good to go. I did bleed pretty heavily, basically after my water broke from that point forward. So they did give me a shot of Pitocin in my leg, which made everything go really well. I stopped bleeding. It was all really good. It clotted really well. They did give me 2 IV bags full of liquids and fluids just because of my loss of blood and my low iron levels. to make sure that I was good and everything was okay. I am now getting iron infusions postpartum to help, but other than that, I have been good. His APGARs were 8 and 9. We did golden hour of having him on my chest, and then I laid there for a little while. She checked me and everything, and I hadn't torn at all. I didn't tear at all, which was shocking because it felt so much like the tear that I felt with Gabriel. It did feel different though, so it wasn't totally a surprise, but at the same time I was like, oh yeah, with all the forcefulness of the pushing that I was doing, I assumed that I had just torn because I was pushing so hard. But I hadn't, and no hemorrhoids or anything like that, so shocking. But it kind of shows you that when you prepared for labor, you do better in terms of like your body can handle it a little bit more. So some complications won't arise that might arise otherwise just because you're prepared for the way that you're planning on delivering, right? All labor takes preparation. All delivery takes preparation, no matter if you're doing it unmedicated or medicated. You just prepare differently for those two different outcomes. I had taken so many supplements and I was preparing my body and that kind of thing that I think my skin was like, yeah, we can stretch this far, it's fine. And it was fine. One thing that I skipped over, it was probably like 10 minutes after he was born, but it didn't feel like 10 minutes after he was born that I delivered the placenta. It did get, it was kind of stuck, so she did have to, assist by pulling it out. She didn't, reach in and scoop it out, which lots of women after birth have experienced that and said it's very, very horrible, so I'm really glad that she didn't have to go and scoop it out. I didn't really feel anything. I couldn't feel contractions. I couldn't feel the placenta delivery or anything. My cousin watching it was kind of horrified. She was like, that was terrifying because she was yanking it and I thought she was going to have to go in and scoop it, and she didn't. She told me to push a lot more, so I did have to concentrate a lot more than when I delivered Gabriel's placenta, but it delivered just fine. It didn't, there were no complications with that. It just was a little bit more work. I just think that my muscles were a little bit more worn out, so my pushing wasn't as effective with the placenta pushes because my body was just like, okay, I'm done now. Because I was not prepared for as much pushing as I had to do with him, how aggressive it was. I pushed for 45 minutes with Gabriel, but he was engaged. It was more the actual pushing that I didn't know necessarily how to do. It was my first baby, all that kind of stuff. Whereas I felt like my pushes were really ineffective, but that's because I was pushing for almost an hour to get him from in my stomach to all the way out of my body. He was not engaged at all, so we had to get to engage through the birth canal to delivery. Slept there for 6 hours after he was born, got up, they discharged us, and we went home. Took out my IV, all that good jazz. That's pretty much what happened. If you have any questions about anything specifically or want me to go into a little bit more detail about anything, I kind of breezed through it, trying to go as quickly as I could, but also including major and important details. Of course, there were a lot of little things that happened along the way that weren't important to the retelling of the story, but otherwise, that's basically how everything went. And honestly, the most eventful part was the less than an hour that I was pushing. And I keep telling Gregory, because even afterwards, after Gabriel was born, I was like, I am never doing that again. After he was born, I was like, okay, that was not great, but we can do it again. It'll be fine. I got through it once, I can do it again. So I never really had that, oh, I am never going through labor again kind of feeling that I did have with my first one. I think that was due to preparation, knowing what I was doing, less intense labor, and just everything in general about it made it smoother for me. Even though arguably I had more complications than last time. But whatever. My blood pressure this time was good all throughout labor, so it was pretty good. It was pretty comfortable. Basically until pushing, I was pretty good to go. I wish I would have gotten to deliver in the water. It just didn't happen this time. But honestly, I had a lot more anxiety about my health and things like that this time around in terms of, it made pregnancy a little bit more complicated. And I think that not having to face those things next time, because I know that I faced them in the past, and being preemptive and preventative will really help me in the future. Gabriel's not about me talking anymore, and this video is long enough as is. So I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you did enjoy this video. If you have other questions, put them down below. Otherwise, we will see you next time.
Love, Genevieve.